we the Sunni Ash'aris, we make the following claim. We claim that when it comes to the asma and the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that have been mentioned to us in the Quran and the Sunnah, they are to be categorized into two categories. The first category, we call them Muhkam, clear-cut, definitive. The second category, we call them Sifat, Asma and Sifat which are Mutashabih, ambiguous, unclear in meaning. What is the criteria for each? For the first one, the Asma and the Sifat which are Muhkam are those which, if we were to understand them literally upon their original meaning, على الوضع الأول, it would not lead us to Tashbih and Tajsim. So for example, you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is able to do all things. وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all hearing, all seeing. We consider all of these sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as clear-cut in meaning, definitive. We affirm them upon their literal meaning. The second category of sifat is mutashabih, unclear, ambiguous. What is the criteria for that? Any sifa or any name which, if we were to understand that upon its literal meaning, what we are accustomed to in creation, it would lead us to tashbih and tajsim. Like what? For example, yadullahi fawqa aydihim. The hand of Allah is above their hand. If we affirm a literal hand, a hand means that it's a part of a whole. If we have this belief in Allah that there's a whole relationship within Him, then this has led us down the trap of tajsim and tashbih, where we're likening Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're saying that وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is somewhat of a body, a limited finite body, spatially extended, has a beginning to the end. So what do we do with such verses? We assign their meaning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do tafweed. Or if you want, you can also apply ta'wil. You give it an alternative meaning that is accepted within the context that it's been used in, and that we have evidence for in the Arabic language. This is our way. The claim also that we make is the likes of Ibn Qudama and other Mufawwid Hanabila. Their way is the same way as us. That when it comes to the sifat and the asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have this distinction between the muhkam and the mutashabihat. The only difference is when it comes to the mutashabihat, in the Hanbali madhab, the general rule is that it's haram to make ta'wil, but there are exceptions to that rule. They say, for example, if we find ta'wil in the Quran or in the Sunnah or from a prominent Imam of the Salaf, then we are allowed to mention such a ta'wil and believe in such a ta'wil. But after that, the door is closed. So that's the only difference we have between them when it comes to the sifat and the asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the way of the Wahhabiyya, the modern day Najdi Wahhabiyya that adhere to the teachings of Ibn Taymiyyah? Their way is, they believe that all of the asma and the sifat of Allah are muhkam, are clear-cut in meaning. And they are all to be affirmed upon their literal apparent meaning. And that there is a level of resemblance between the creator and the creation. There is a qadr mushtarak fil ma'na. There is a level of similarity in meaning between the creator and the creation. And they'll say that God has a real hand, a real literal hand, that's a part of His that, but the kayfiyah is different. The modality of this hand is different in its size, in its structure, in its dimensions to the hands of creation. We say that such a belief is the belief of the Mujassima that can be traced all the way back to Muhammad bin Karram. And if you want to trace it earlier on, you can take it back all the way to Muqatil bin Sulaiman.